Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well. I just wanted to let you know that we miss you. As youth leaders, we miss seeing you, and we just want to let you know that we're still here to talk to you and to pray with you or to listen to you. So if there's ever anything you need, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're still here for you guys, and we care about you so much. I wanted to share with you a couple of things I was reading this morning in Psalm 25 and Psalm 27. First verse in Psalm 27 says this: "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?" This is a really bold verse that King David wrote. And I often wonder, how can he be so bold, and how can he say something like this that is so confident? How can he say that I'm not afraid of anything because I trust in God? And when I read this, my fear doesn't instantly go away. I can read it, and I'm still afraid of things, and I'm still anxious about things. It's because when David wrote this, he was experiencing some really hard times. There was a man named Saul who was after him, trying to kill him. Saul had a whole army that was chasing David and trying to find him and get rid of him. And this went on for a big part of David's life, and he had a lot of difficulties in life. And throughout all these difficulties, he wrote a lot of the Psalms that we see in the Bible. And in these difficulties, he reaches out to God and he embraces God, and God sustains him in these difficulties. So when David writes these incredible things, it's because he intimately knew God. It wasn't just something that he hoped or he wished God might be, but he knew that God was in control because he had seen God work and he had put his trust in God. And so he was faithful to God, even in the hard times, because he had nothing else to trust in. I had a professor who told me that a key trait in spiritual maturity is embracing suffering, because it is through suffering that we must rely on God, and when we see ultimately that he is in control. In verse 16 of Psalm 25, it says this: "Turn to me and be gracious to me, for I am lonely and afflicted." Afflicted meaning suffering. Even though God is in control, it is clear that bad things still happen. And David still suffered, and we still suffer. But while David was on the run from Saul, he cried out to God and said, "I am lonely, help me." Of all the challenges that David faced, loneliness was one of the hardest ones he dealt with. It is in this loneliness, though, where we can choose to embrace God and seek him, or we can choose to distract ourselves. And we can see that David embraced God in these hard times, and he was faithful to God, and this connection to God sustained him. Psalm 27 verse 8 says, "God has said, seek my face. And my heart says to God, your face, Lord, do I seek." David knew that God is always calling us. He's always calling us closer to him. If we embrace God in these difficult times, we grow closer and he sustains us, even when things don't go well. This doesn't mean that we can't be honest when things are bad. We are encouraged to cry out to God and be honest with what we're thinking and feeling and the questions that we're asking. Because oftentimes Christians feel like they need to just be overly positive and happy about absolutely everything and never acknowledge the negative things that happen in life. But that's not true. David, all throughout the Psalms, says a lot of really hard things and asks God a lot of really hard questions. And when he does this and when he's honest and open with God, he finds that God sustains him. So as we seek God honestly and process the things that we're feeling, I believe we will find him, and we come into a deeper relationship with him where he sustains us and he carries us through the hard times. That's what he did for David, and he'll do that for us. Even when things don't go well, even when things continue to go poorly, we know that God is with us, and that connection to him sustains us. the last verse I want to talk about is from Psalm 25, verse 15, and it says this: "My eyes are ever towards the Lord, for he will pluck my feet out of the net." Even though I can acknowledge that this season of life is difficult for me, it doesn't help if I spend all my time thinking about it, watching the news about it, or worrying about it. And this goes with any difficult thing in life. It's important to be honest about how we feel and process our emotions and our questions. But we have to come to a point where we realize it's time to move on, and it's time to grow from this experience, and it's time to look to God. So rather than just trying to get away from our problems or distract ourselves from our problems, we should focus on God, because as verse 15 says, he is the one that will pull us out of the net, that will pull us out of the mess that we find ourselves in. And that's what I hope for you guys, that you will be able to embrace God in this time that can be lonely, and this time that can be difficult and uncertain, rather than turning to distractions to just keep our mind busy. I pray that you guys will run towards God and embrace him, and understand what you're feeling in these difficult times, and ask God questions, ask each other questions, and be honest about your search for God. I encourage you guys as a small group to read Psalm 27 or Psalm 25, it's up to you, and after you've read it, think about a verse or a passage from one of the Psalms that was either encouraging to you or is something that you would like to carry with you and reflect on later, or something that you could learn something from. So read it together and just pick a verse that stands out to you. Later this week, on Friday, we're starting our Bible study at noon. If you guys are interested in joining, contact me or have your leader get in touch with me. It's going to be a great time of praying together and reading the Bible together. So if that's something you're interested in, please let us know. We'll continue to pray for you, and I hope you guys have a wonderful evening together.